Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety. And it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Hello Sunday. Hope you're all doing really well. I hope you've all had a fab week. This week, there's not going to be a lot of chat from me about kind of my week and life updates because, being really honest with you, this is a pre-record for no other reason than I've just come off a coaching call with the entrepreneurs group that I'm part of. So I think I've spoken a few times about the accountability and coaching group that I joined at the start of the year to help with business and growing my business and just having some accountability because I obviously work on my own. And we've just done such an incredible session that could not have come at a more poignant time for me. And it was all around values and what are your values and, you know, essentially what is that inner drive? What are the things that are driving you to do the things that you do? Which it may seem like a really simple question, but actually when you answer these questions and you do these exercises, you really do uncover, a lot more than you probably first thought or was on face value. So I finished the call and I thought, I've got to share this stuff. Like, I know that the podcast listeners would benefit from this. Now, I am going to say, if you're anything like me and you listen to podcasts maybe when you're cleaning or getting ready or on a walk or in the shower, then this is probably one of those episodes that you're going to want to just put a pin in and shelve for a time when you can come back with a notepad and pen. Make a note of these questions, make a note of the exercises, and actually go away and do them. Because it's all very well listening to something and thinking, yeah, that's a great idea. But you only really get the true results from doing this work. You know, you only really get the leaps and bounds and progression in your growth and development from actually putting pen to paper and putting some time aside and really doing the thinking. Now, some of you might think, Nikki, I'm too busy for that. Just tell me. But honestly, this is one of those things that I promise you, if you do the questions and you do the work, it will have a really positive effect. And it may even open your eyes to why you're feeling the way that you are or where you're expending your energy that maybe you don't need to be or shouldn't be. So I'm not going to claim that any of this work is mine. It all comes from a guy called John DeMartini. He has a book called The Values Factor, which I will put in the show notes. I'll put a link. And essentially, it's asking you questions and prompting you to think around what it is that you spend your time doing and thinking about and all of that stuff versus actually what you want to be expending your energy on. So there's 13 questions altogether. And honestly, I think if I would have just sat and thought about these, my answers probably would have been very different than really putting pen to paper and really giving myself the space and the time to interrogate, is that really the truth? And we'll talk through some more of that as we go through the questions. If I said to you, what are your values, right? You'd probably say things like, I don't know, honesty, integrity, loyalty. And yeah, sure, we all value those things. I mean, some of us may not. Some of my exes certainly did. But we will all have things that we think that we value. But these are just social norms. These are expectations. These are ideals to the way that we should be living our life and our expectations of others. they're not our core values as individuals. They're not the things that really drive us day to day. So sure, you might, when looking for a best friend or a partner, value somebody who is going to be honest with you, or is going to, be integral and uphold what they say they're about, even when you're not around. But that really should just be a given. That is the kind of the lowest bar that we should accept for people in our lives. Those aren't the things that are driving us to do the things that we do. Now, often, and I know that I've experienced this lately as well, we will have misalignment between what our values are and what we're actually spending our time doing. It's the reason why a lot of new mums, for instance, will feel like they've lost themselves and their identity a bit, because they suddenly find themselves so time poor and so restricted in their day as to the things that they're doing, because, they're looking after a whole new human life. And not just mums, dads too. But I think because of the way, especially in the UK, that maternity and paternity leave are structured, and because a lot of the time the baby physically needs the mother because of breastfeeding, etc., it's often more the mothers that go through this and feel this, because the things that you value and the things that you enjoy spending your time doing, you no longer have the time to do, or you certainly have a lot more restrictions over that time. So maybe things like health and fitness and self-care and learning and development get pushed so far down your list that a few weeks or months of not focusing on them, and you're suddenly like, who's Nikki? So the things that we value drive us. They give us energy. They give us fulfillment. They give us enjoyment. The less of those things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis for a prolonged period of time, the more drained and tired and out of alignment you're going to be. So we've all had those times, right, where we just have that, like, what would you call it? Like flow state that, you've been doing something and you look at the clock and you're like, oh shit, like it's been 3 hours. Or maybe you're talking to a friend and you suddenly look at the timer on your phone and you're like, oh my God, I've got to go and pick the kids up, or I've got to start dinner, and it's been an hour and you swear it's been 10 minutes. Because you're so fueled up and so in alignment with your values and the things that you enjoy doing in that moment, that it just doesn't feel like any time has gone by. And then there might be other times where you are doing something and you think, oh my God, like maybe when we were at school, we can all remember, right, classes that we were in that was so far removed from what we enjoyed and our like zone of genius and our skill set, that we were like, oh, I swear this class has been going on for an hour already, and it had been like 15, 20 minutes. So for me, recently, there's been, and I wouldn't say a complete misalignment, because I love what I do. I love my business. I love my job. I love helping businesses to find leadership talent. I love the intellectual conversations I have. But when I set up my business last year, I set it up to work with more purpose-driven, values-driven, ethical, good for the planet type brands. I set it up so that the things that I was good at and my skill set could contribute towards bettering things, bettering health, bettering our planet. And don't get me wrong, the clients that I've worked with in the last year have been incredible in terms of the opportunities that they've given me, but I've not quite yet found that sweet spot with my portfolio being predominantly that way inclined, and predominantly the types of brands and businesses that I wanted to work for and with and partner with. So there's been a bit of a misalignment. There also has been a bit of a misalignment with the things that I love doing versus the stuff that I've had to do this year. So I've had to build my CRM from scratch again because it was not fit for purpose, and I've had to migrate all the data over and go through like a really heavy technical process of getting everything tagged up, and just not the stuff that I enjoy doing. I've also had to go through a process of really looking into my finances and understanding tax and all the stuff that as a business owner and entrepreneur is super, super important. But until you've really done a first year in business, you can't like reflect on and look back on. So I had to spend some of the first part of this year doing that. And then the market's not been as buoyant. So I've had to spend a lot of time doing business development, which I really enjoy, but I enjoy it as part of the role, not as the whole role. So on reflection, this year so far hasn't given me as much opportunity as the bulk of last year to do the stuff that I really enjoy. So that combined with the client base not quite aligning with exactly where I want to be, and it's been a little bit of a struggle. I think I referred to it a couple of weeks ago as pushing water uphill with a fork. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, but it's definitely been I've not felt like I've been in my kind of like flow state or zone of genius every day. And you're not going to be every day, but certainly doing this exercise has helped me to see maybe where I can kind of realign things. So looking at your values and looking at where you're spending your time, where you're focusing your energy can just give you an opportunity to be like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. Like we go through so much of our life on autopilot and on just doing things that we have to do, that sometimes it takes sitting down for 10 minutes and answering questions like these to just give us that clarity and that kind of realization of, oh yeah, actually, maybe there is something that I can change and maybe there is something that I can do differently. So your values get to change. You can choose your values. There will be some things that intrinsically, like within you, just drive you and things that you naturally enjoy and that you naturally gravitate towards. But then there's other things that you can choose to value because they meet your goals. So for instance, if a value of yours is family and spending time with family, but you're absolutely knackered every day because you're spending 16 hours at work, or you're doing a 12-hour day and then you've got a commute, and then you're not getting to bed till late because you're wanting to spend time with your family, but actually you're just really snappy, you're biting their heads off, you're not spending proper quality time with your kids, then a value of yours might need to be sleep. Because in order to reach the goal of spending quality time with your family and spending, good time with your partner or your spouse or your kids, you need to be well rested. And therefore, you might need to incorporate a new value into your value system in order to meet some of your goals. Now, it can work the other way around. It can be that you look at, and actually this is probably more so for me, where I felt that there was a misalignment and where I'm going to kind of refocus my energy, is that the things that I value, I'm not doing enough of, or I'm certainly not doing enough of in my professional life. And I'll give you kind of an example of that and you'll understand more as we go through the exercises. But for me, health and fitness and wellness, more so than anything, came up in a lot of the answers to these questions. And actually, I'm not focusing so much in that space within my day-to-day job. And it's something that I can do. It's something that I've got the opportunity to do. So actually making that small tweak, because I've recognized it, will give me that fire back. It will give me the feeling of I'm using my skill set, but I'm doing it within an industry sector and a space that I'm really aligned with and that I really value. So it can work both ways. You can increase or create new values in alignment with your goals, or you can change your goals in alignment with your values. I hope that all makes sense. So, let's go through the questions. There's 13 questions. I think they're all quite self-explanatory. I will try and give a little explanation if it's, not super clear. But I want to whiz through these because I don't want this episode to be too long, because I want you to really be able to go away and do this exercise without it taking up too much of your time. So if you need to pause after each question, feel free to do that. Or if you want to listen to them all, make a note of them all, and then take your own time to self-reflect, whichever way works for you. So the first question is, number one, what populates your personal space? What populates your personal space? So when we're talking about personal space, we're not necessarily talking about your whole home, because if you've got kids and they've got like toys everywhere, or you've got a partner and their things are everywhere, then that's not necessarily a reflection of what you value. So it could be that you've got a side of the bedroom in terms of like maybe a bedside table, or it could be that you've got an office. So I have an office space. It's also got like wardrobes and stuff in it. So it's kind of a shared space, but also my office, and there's none of my husband's stuff in here other than in the wardrobes. So if I look around here, I can see things like obviously my work stuff. I've also got gym stuff. I've got notes and like cards and stuff from friends and family, especially when I started the business. So like good luck and proud of you messages, and I've got self-development books, and I've got a motivational quote on the wall. So there's things that indicate the type of person that I am all around me. I've also got crystals and a Himalayan salt lamp. I've got a electronic diffuser with lovely like spa scents in it. There's things in here that would show you snippets of my personality. So what are the things that are in your personal space, that populate your personal space? So that's the first one. Number two is, how do you allocate time? So if you think about maybe not the stuff that you have to do, so we're not talking about the school run or making dinner, although you may allocate, good resource to making dinner if that's, nutritious and healthy food is a priority of yours. But we're talking about if you had free time, maybe you've got a free morning or afternoon, or it's the weekend, how would you allocate your time? So for me, it would be things like going to the gym. It would be listening to podcasts, maybe an audiobook, talking to friends and family or meeting up with them, going for a walk in nature. I also do allocate some free time to work because I do really value my business. So for me, that isn't so much a like forced time, but where do you allocate your time? If you're really honest with yourself, what is it that you do when you've got the choice over how you spend your time? Number three is, how do you expend your energy? So if you think about a typical day, where is your energy going? So for me, this is normally the gym or doing some sort of workout. I listen to podcasts a lot, so I've always got a podcast on when I'm working as well. So a lot of my time and energy goes into working. Voice noting my friends. I voice note 2 or 3 friends daily. We speak daily, so energy goes into that. Also social media, like if I'm really honest, I do have a little bit of a social media scroll at least once a day, whether that's posting on the podcast Instagram or TikTok, or whether it's just, scrolling for inspiration and catching up with friends. So where are you spending your energy? What are the things that your energy is going into? Number 4 is, how do you spend your money? So, this is one that you can get your banking app out for if you use online banking. It's easy to look through and find out where you're spending. And we're not talking about, your mortgage payments or your rent or your utility bills. We're talking about the things that when you have a choice on what to spend your disposable income on, where is that money going? So for me, it's a lot of like learning resources. So I spend a lot on audiobooks and podcast subscriptions. So getting extra content. I spend money on skincare, so premium and scientifically proven skincare products. On health, so I've got a lot of like supplement products, gym products, fitness, that sort of stuff. And also trips and travel. Like a bulk of my income each year tends to go on trips and travel. It might not be in my banking app because it's normally just once or twice a year that money goes out, but it's definitely a big proportion of my income. Number 5 is, where are you most organised? Now, I found this quite a difficult one because I'm actually pretty organised in most areas of my life, to be honest. Like, there's not really that many areas where I tend to drop the ball. But I think definitely with this podcast and with my work, those are the two areas where I'm most organised. Like, I'm yet to miss a podcast week. I think I missed one last year due to my nan being in hospital, and I've never missed a work deadline. I will always get done what I say I'm going to do with clients. So for me, those are probably the two areas that I'm most organised. But actually, looking at it, like my fitness and my health as well, like I've got plans for those, and I work with somebody who helps to organise me in those spaces. So where are you most organised? You know, is it with your kids? Is it with work? Is it with your friends and family? What are the areas where you never drop the ball? Number 6 is, where do you exhibit reliability, discipline, and focus? Now, again, for me, this was an easy one because there's 3 main areas in my life that I rarely drop the ball in terms of discipline and focus. I might not always be successful, but the intention and the focus and the energy is normally there. And that is fitness. So hitting my gym goals every week, going 3 or 4 times a week, and, really progressively overloading with my training. Food and nutrition, so tracking my food and nutrition, hitting my daily macros. And then also work, again, for me, like, I'm really lucky that I really enjoy my job, and actually the focus and the discipline is normally there. For you, it could be, something completely different. But if you're really honest with yourself, where is it that you are like super reliable, super disciplined, and super focused? Number 7 is, what occupies your thoughts? This is a really interesting one, because I think if you're really honest with yourself, there's probably things that occupy your thoughts that you wish didn't, but they also say a lot about what you value. And then there's probably some things that occupy your thoughts that, you want to think more about or want to give more mental energy to. But for me, it was home and the house. So we are, looking to upgrade our home and move house in the next couple of years. So I quite regularly am doing like mental checklists of what I'd want in that next home and what works for us and what doesn't, because I think you need to go into a process like that being really super clear. So thinking about the types of houses that we would like in the types of areas, that does take up, I wouldn't say a lot of mental energy, but it's definitely something that I think about each week. Definitely work and career. I think, current projects, where I want to be, the strategy, what I want to achieve, all that sort of stuff definitely occupies a lot of my time. And that is both when I'm working during the day and also outside of that. And maybe that's because it is my own business, but I also felt that way, I think, when I was working for someone else, when I was employed. Podcast topics and self-development, thinking about what it is that I want to talk about on the next pod, or looking for inspiration, or making notes on things that come to me. That is something that I spend, a good amount of time doing. And not because it's something that I put time aside for, it's just something that I naturally enjoy. And also my own growth and development, like thinking about, where can I be a better person? Where can I improve? What tools and resources can I employ to get to where I want to be, and trying to identify my own like blind spots and development areas is definitely something that I do pay a lot of attention to and do think about a lot. Number 8 is, what goals do you consistently hit? So what are the goals that you set yourself that there's no way you're not going to hit them? So like for me, when I set my goals out at the beginning of each month, I know I'm going to hit the podcasting goal. I know I'm going to put out at least 4 podcasts in a month, because it's just part of my week and it's just a given. And each week I know pretty much that I'm going to hit my health and fitness goals, because it's just a consistent lifestyle now. It's a choice, and I've made it easy for myself. Whereas things like work revenue and, bringing on board new clients, that is one where sometimes I might not hit it. And it's not necessarily through a lack of focus, but maybe just that misalignment and that kind of fire and drive that we're talking about. So what are the areas that you do consistently hit your goals in? Also daily health habits for me, like taking my Simprove and my supplements and doing my LED mask, like they're just non-negotiables, and I always get them done. For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3-month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI50, or clicking the link in the show notes. Number nine, what topics dominate your self-talk? Now, this is a really tough one, and I think being aware of how we talk to ourselves and being aware of just the things that come into our minds that we maybe say that we would never say out loud to anyone else. It's so important to have an awareness of that. And maybe you don't. Maybe you need to spend a day just trying to be aware of the things that you say to yourself. Maybe you've never thought about this before. But for me, the self-talk is all around at the moment work and concerns about the business, and not necessarily concerns, but, queries about where do I want to take it and what do I want to do, and is this the best strategy, questioning things. I think definitely self-talk around kind of like health and what I can do better to biohack and create these better ways of living, and are there better supplements I can take, and can I have better sleep? And my self-talk is around both questioning that, but also, I guess, kind of congratulating myself when I do well, because that is a focus for me. And also, I think a lot of like self-development and manifestation, like I said earlier, it was, for me, I do spend time thinking about how can I be a better person? How can I develop better? Who in my life needs me to be better? And how can I up level and reach a new bar? And sometimes berating myself when I don't. If I've snapped at my husband and one of my development areas is patience, then I might say, oh, fuck's sake, what did you do that for? That wasn't great, but actually I'd never talked to anyone else like that. So what are the areas that you talk to yourself about the most? Number 11 is, what do you mentally consume? Now, this is so important. This is probably one of the top ones for me, because social media and what you read and what you watch and what you listen to has such a powerful influence over our mindset. Like, just listening to this podcast now, you've made a decision to try and be better and try and invest in yourself. And that is so freaking important. But if when you open your Instagram, there's pictures of emaciated models or fitness goals that you will never reach because these people are bodybuilders who put 24/7 effort into their fitness alone, or pictures of mothers that you aspire to be like, these happy families, but actually there's no reality behind that picture. It's just a perfect family image. Then inevitably you're going to probably end up feeling pretty shit about your own life. So what are the things that you mentally consume? And this could be your social media feed, which is really easy to look at because you can just go onto your explore page on Instagram or open up your TikTok feed and look at the first few videos that come up. What is the algorithm picking up? And then from like a podcast, TV, music, audio perspective, or maybe you're reading things that you read, what is it that you're consuming? So for me, the top things that I tend to consume are fitness, health and wellness related, self-development and law of attraction, house, homes and interiors, motivational quotes, and investing and finance. Those were the things that came up on my Instagram feed, and those are the topics that I tend to listen to, as well as like comedy podcasts, also murder. We watch a lot of murder documentaries, which apparently is a sign that you're a psychopath. So I don't know what that says about us. Number 12 is, what are your long-term goals? So we're not talking about the next 6-12 months. We're not even really talking about the next, 3 to 5 years. But if I was to ask you, what is your goal? Like when you're 60 and you're looking at retirement, what is it that, what do you want? Do you want to be traveling the world? Do you want a family of 10 grandkids all sat around the table every Christmas? Do you want it to just be you and your husband in a countryside cottage with no neighbours? Like, what are your long-term goals? Because essentially the things that we do daily are affecting that, like taking supplements, going to the gym, going to get regular medical checkups. If your values link in with health and your long-term goal is to be in your 80s or 90s with your partner or with your family, you've got to be doing those daily to get to that point. It was like we were talking about the other week. Look after the pennies and the pennies will look after the pounds. Look after your daily habits and your daily habits will become who you are as a person in later life. So for me, my long-term goals are to have a beautiful home or space or environment that my husband and I have curated to be exactly to our taste, really quality, feels like a haven, somewhere that I feel like I just love being. That is a big goal of ours. Also, travel. We want to have an ability to travel and experience different cultures, experience the world, both now but also in later life. And also we want a home abroad. We want to have a home that we can go to in, the winter months in the UK that is in a warmer climate. Probably Europe, just due to the time difference, but we want to have a home abroad. For us, we're not bothered about children. We don't want children. We don't want a big family. But definitely having that family around us in the form of like nieces, nephews and siblings that they can, come and spend time with us in our holiday home. That is a goal of ours. And then finally, number 13 is, what topics do you love learning about? So if I was to say, right, you get to choose a documentary and a book or a podcast on a topic, what would it be? So for me, those are wellness, so like biohacking, health, and understanding, our health and wellness and the science behind it. It's neuroscience and self-development. I love understanding the science behind why we behave the way that we do and do the things that we do and how we can develop and grow and learn as people. And it would be manifestation and law of attraction and understanding how energies work and how what we put out into the world mirrors what we get back, and alignment with what we want, attracting those things. So those are the 13 questions. And I think once you've got answers to those, it should become a lot clearer what your values are. And then you'll have an instinctive knowing as to whether those things that you value are playing enough of an important role in your life. Now, I'm not saying if you value the gym and fitness that you have to go and become a PT or open up a gym. But what I'm saying is if you value the gym and fitness and you've not been to the gym in 6 months, you haven't focused on your health and wellness, you probably want to look at that as, where's the disconnect and how can I incorporate this into my life? One of my values is nature and the outdoors, but I don't really do a huge amount other than a daily walk. So, and I don't even do that sometimes. So for me, incorporating that value into my day-to-day by making sure that I do get outside every day regardless of the weather, and making sure that at the weekends when my husband and I do have free time, we go and explore new places. We're so lucky that we live in Yorkshire. It's absolutely stunning up here, and there's so many gorgeous countryside spots within 30-40 minutes of us and even closer. So going and exploring those is something that I really need to incorporate. And then, you may not have a job that allows you to incorporate many of these values, but as long as you're incorporating them some way into your life, then maybe you can look at changing jobs. Maybe you can look at changing the role within your industry or business. Maybe you can look at starting your own business. Or if you know that that's not an option for you at the moment, maybe you've got young children, you need the steady income, then how do you incorporate these elements into your personal life and into your hobbies? So the reason I started this podcast was because I love self-development. I love teaching it. I love learning it with you guys. I love sharing what I know. But when I was doing coaching previously, the one-on-one coaching, it wasn't really for me. I think there's quite a disconnect in this country between what people view as coaching and what people view as therapy. And it just wasn't working for me. I felt like I was being drained of energy, and that isn't how it should be. But this medium of sharing and learning and just giving something back is absolutely something that I adore. So yeah, one of my values being self-development and learning and sharing and making things better, making the world a better place, is fulfilled by me doing this podcast and by sharing the things that I learn as I go on this journey. Whereas I might not get that opportunity in my day job, but this has highlighted to me that actually working with or endeavouring to work with a client base that is more health and wellness focused could at least, move me in the right direction when it comes to my professional life, which I spend so many hours engaging in. So it's making the small tweaks where you can. And just coming back to what I was talking about at the beginning, for instance, if one of your values is the gym or is fitness, but you're not getting there because you're having shit sleep, because you're staying up late watching TV, then maybe sleep needs to be a priority value so that you can fulfill your existing value of health and fitness. Or maybe wellness is one of your values, but actually you're eating shit every day because you're not giving yourself enough time, because you're not getting up early enough. So maybe, again, sleep needs to be a priority so that you can get up earlier and you can make yourself a nutritious lunch to take to work to fulfill that value of wellness. So I hope that has landed and makes sense. It's definitely one of those subjects that I'm probably going to get questions on. So please do feel free to drop into my inbox or pop us an email at hellosundaypod@outlook.com. And yeah, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do follow the show on the platform that you're listening on at the moment. And please leave a review and share on your socials. It just, honestly, it helps us so much. And thank you to everybody that's already done that. It means the absolute world. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at HelloSundayPod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.